Hi guys, in this lesson I'm gonna talk some more about some 3-note 7th chord voicings that sound a bit like clusters, and I want to show you how you can apply those to 2-5-1 cadences, and also how I might use that when I'm harmonizing a melody. So as I mentioned in the first lesson about this type of voicings, they are derived from normal inversions of 7th chords, which are really difficult to play on guitar because you get stuff like or this, which is hard to keep practical to play. They sound nice, but you need to utilize open strings and you can't do it in all keys, and they're all sorts of difficult to work with. So basically what we do is that we just choose to leave out one note of the 4, and then we get a more playable version of the same chord, and I tend to want to keep the close interval, so the second interval that's somewhere in this inversion, I want to keep that in the chord because that's the sound I like. So in the first lesson I started out with voicings constructed with a third and a second, so that would be this or this as a basis, and in this lesson I'm going to do that with a fifth and a second, so you would get this or this, to keep it in C major. So all my examples are, well, all of the voicing examples and the cadences are all in the key of C, and then at the end of the lesson I'll do a bit of a standard also, just to show how I might use this when I'm playing a melody, because that's one of the main things that I use it for, if you have a melody that sort of lends itself to that kind of sound. So let's just first look at the voicings. So the first set is first a fifth and then a second, and that sounds like this. And the second set is then first the second and then the fifth, and that sounds like this. Well, actually, it only goes to there, but so basically it's the same structure, I'm just moving it up the scale. That exercise is, by the way, a good exercise for any chord you like. If you have a chord you like, you might sort of identify it in a scale and try and move it through the scale just to see what happens. That and inverting it, always nice to do to get new voicings. As you can see, I didn't put chord symbols on it because, to me, since they're not complete chords, I don't really have like a steady one specific name for them that I think of them. I sort of tend to just use them in a context. So this might be a C major 7 in one context, or an A minor in another, or maybe I don't know, a strange G voicing, for instance. Yeah, so they're a little bit open in terms of that. Let's try and put it to use. So I'll just play a few 2-5-1 cadences in the key of C. So here's the first example. Of course, it's a bit hard to hear because you need to hear this. Underneath it to get the complete sound of it, but that's what it is. So the D minor voicing, well, you could think of it as being a D minor 7, which I'm playing with an F triad here, and then I substituted the C with an E, so it's like a D minor with a 9. Then I have this G7 altered voicing. To me, it's sort of coming from using the G7 altered scale as an A flat minor melodic, and this is sort of an A flat minor chord to me. On the C, I'm playing this, which is in fact an E sus chord, but over a C it gives you a 6, a 7 and a third. So it actually gives you a complete chord. So the next example sounds like this. So what's happening here? So this voicing was in the first lesson too, for D minor. It's a D minor 9 without a fifth. Then I'm moving the melody note from F to G up to this voicing that I'm using for a G7 altered. And then I'm moving the melody down to an F, which by the way gives us a complete G7 flat 5 voicing. And then I'm resolving to this thirdless C major 7 voicing. So the third example sounds like this. So I'm using on the D minor a thirdless D minor 7 voicing, and then basically I'm moving that up a half step, and then I substituted one note on the G7 so that I have the third in the voicing. So I have like D flat, E flat and B. And then I'm resolving that to this C9 voicing. So when you practice these things, you'll notice that they're quite stretchy. So try to be careful and be aware of how your wrist in your left, politically correct fretting hand is reacting. Because if you overdo it, you might find yourself not playing guitar for a long time. So the last example that I'm gonna give here is the first 8 bars of the jazz standard Stella By Starlight. When I use these voicings, since they're not complete and the focus is on how the voicing sounds and the close intervals, and that I'm not using them in situations where I'm really like playing rhythmical. I'm using them in situations where I let harmony sustain. Because that's what I like about these kind of voicings. That would be the point of them. So I chose Stella By Starlight because that has a progression that I think lends itself to that quite well. Let's just try and play the example. So, as you might notice, I have the same solution for the 2 2/5s. So I'm playing and on both the E minor 7 flat 5 to A7 and the C minor 7 F7. And that works quite well, even though one is a minor 2/5 and one is a major 2/5, because I end up with voicings that don't really give that away. Maybe that also is a little bit, you have the melody that tells you that the first one is probably not this, but this, because you have the flat 5 in the melody, so you don't really need to hear anymore. And I really like this thing that I have three voices and I can sort of mold the chord while I'm playing it. And with 3 voices you can kind of get away with it real time almost. So it's fairly flexible. So I play that, and then after that for the F minor I have this very stretchy voicing, which is in fact, it's kind of coming out of this voicing, and then I substituted the root with the 9 because that's what's in the melody, and then that moves really nicely to this B flat 7 13 flat 9. And then we have this E flat major 7, which is basically the the same as this. C major 7 is just on another set of strings. And the last chord is an A flat 7 shell voicing. So that was a few examples on how I might apply voicings like this, and hopefully with this and the information from the first lesson you have a little bit more of a complete overview of this type of voicings, and also some insight into how I might apply it in 2/5s when I'm comping, but also when I'm harmonizing a melody, which is a fairly big part of what you need to be able to do with your chord voicings. Also because that's what you end up doing when you're comping and you want to have a melody in your comping. It probably sounds better in a lot of cases, unless you're just supplying groove, of course. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked the lesson, then feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also go to my website where you can download the examples as a PDF. And there you can also subscribe to my newsletter if you want to stay up to date with new lessons and CD releases. And we have a remix coming out of one of the Trapin songs from our album that came out in September. If you have any comments or suggestions, then feel free to leave them here on the video. Connect with me on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus or Instagram and let me know there. It's always nice to have some suggestions. I'm planning to maybe do a lesson on different ways to play major scales and positions, because there are a few different schools, and it could be good to maybe have a look at like what are the differences, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the different systems. And maybe it's not really a lesson, but just more an overview and some thoughts, and maybe also a way to get some new ideas and some new suggestions from you guys. So that might be coming up within the next few weeks, I hope. But yeah, in any case, thanks for watching, and until next week.